Hello there, and welcome. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Perhaps you've been wondering about the mysteries beneath our feet, about what might exist in the deep places of the earth. Or maybe you simply enjoy drifting to sleep with stories that take you to places no map can show. Whatever brought you here, you're in the right place. Tonight, we're descending into one of the world's most enduring legends, a story whispered across cultures and centuries about a hidden realm that exists beneath the surface of our world, a place called Agartha. So let your breathing slow, your body settle into comfort, and your thoughts drift downward, gently, like a feather falling through still air. This journey will be calm and peaceful, filled with the soft glow of crystal cities and the ancient wisdom of those who dwell in eternal twilight. And if these stories bring you rest, consider subscribing, leaving a like, and sharing which city you're listening from in the comments. It helps others find these gentle tales, one sleepy soul at a time. Now, close your eyes, and let's begin our descent. Beneath the mountains, deeper than any mine has ever reached, beyond the layers of rock and stone and ancient compressed earth, there is said to exist another world. Not a hollow cavity, not a simple cave system, but an entire realm, vast and luminous, with its own sky, its own light, its own civilizations. This is Agartha, the legendary underground kingdom, spoken of in hushed tones by mystics, explorers, and dreamers across the ages. The name itself carries a certain weight, a certain mystery, Agartha. In some traditions, it's called Agartha or Agartha. In others, it's known as Shambhala, though some say these are different places connected by vast underground tunnels. The variations in spelling and pronunciation hint at the story's age, its passage through many languages and many cultures, each one adding layers to the legend-like sediment building up over millennia. But what is Agartha? Where did this idea come from? And why has it captured human imagination for so long? Let's start at the beginning, or at least where the Western world first encountered the story in its modern form. In the late 19th century, a French occultist named Alexandre Saint-Yves d'Alvedre began writing about an underground kingdom he called Agartha. He claimed to have learned about it through mystical visions and communications with beings from this hidden realm. According to Saint-Yves, Agartha was not just a physical place, but the spiritual center of the world, home to a council of enlightened masters who guided humanity's evolution from their hidden sanctuary. He described a vast network of tunnels connecting Agartha to various points on the Earth's surface, with entrances hidden in remote mountains, deep forests, and sacred sites around the world. The civilization within was advanced beyond our comprehension, possessing technologies and spiritual knowledge that made our surface world seem primitive by comparison. Saint-Yves wrote that the inhabitants of Agartha had mastered what he called synarchy, a form of governance based on divine principles and cosmic law, where leaders were chosen not by birth or conquest, but by spiritual attainment and wisdom. It was, in his telling, a utopia of harmony and enlightenment, existing just out of reach beneath our feet. His writings influenced a generation of occultists, theosophists, and spiritual seekers. Madame Helena Blavatsky, founder of the Theosophical Society, incorporated elements of the Agartha legend into her own teachings about hidden masters and secret wisdom. She wrote of the Mahatmas, enlightened beings dwelling in remote and hidden places, guiding humanity's spiritual evolution. These masters, she claimed, had withdrawn from the surface world during ancient cataclysms, taking with them the wisdom of lost civilizations. But the idea of an underground realm is far older than the 19th century, a cult revival. It appears, in various forms, in cultures around the world, suggesting either a common origin or a common human yearning for hidden places of wisdom and safety. In Buddhist tradition, there is Shambhala, sometimes called Shangri-La in Western adaptations. Shambhala is described as a hidden kingdom, often located in the Himalayan mountains or beneath them, where Buddhist teachings are preserved in their purest form. It is said to be a place of perfect peace and enlightenment, ruled by a benevolent king called the Kulika, or Kalki king, who will emerge at the end of this age to restore Dharma to the world. The Kalachakra Tantra, one of the most important texts in Tibetan Buddhism, contains detailed descriptions of Shambhala. It describes the kingdom as circular, with the king's palace at the center, surrounded by mountains made of ice. The inhabitants are said to be highly advanced spiritually, practicing meditation and tantra to levels far beyond what most humans achieve. Time moves differently there, and those who reach Shambhala find that a single day in that realm might equal years in the ordinary world. Tibetan texts speak of vast cave systems beneath the Himalayas, connecting sacred sites and housing communities of monks and yogis who have withdrawn from the surface world to pursue deeper meditative states. Some traditions hold that certain highly realized practitioners can physically travel to these hidden realms through secret passages known only to initiates. Whether these caves are literal or metaphorical is a matter of interpretation, but the image persists. Beneath the highest mountains lie the deepest sanctuaries. In Hindu cosmology, there is Patala, one of the 7 lower realms or locusts beneath the earth. While some texts describe it as a dark underworld, others present it as a beautiful realm of precious stones and serpent deities called Nagas. These Nagas are not evil, but wise, guardians of ancient treasures and esoteric knowledge. They are described as beings of great power who can take human form, and who occasionally marry human princes and princesses in ancient legends. The Puranas describe Patala as having 7 layers, each more beautiful than the last. The lowest and most splendid is called Nagaloka, the realm of the serpent kings. Here, precious stones embedded in the heads of the Nagas provide light, illuminating crystal palaces and gardens more beautiful than anything on the surface. The air is perfumed, the temperature perfect, and suffering is unknown. The ancient Greeks spoke of various underworlds, some terrifying, some mysterious. There was Hades, realm of the dead, but also stories of hidden lands like Hyperborea, sometimes placed in the far north, sometimes beneath the earth, where people lived in perpetual happiness and never aged. Apollo was said to visit Hyperborea during the winter months, and the inhabitants worshipped him with constant songs and celebrations. The Greek historian Herodotus wrote about the Hyperboreans as a real people, blessed with extraordinary longevity and living in a land of perpetual spring. While he placed them in the far north, later interpretations suggested they might dwell in underground caverns, protected from the harsh surface climate. In Native American traditions, many tribes have stories of emergence from underground realms. The Hopi people speak of 3 previous worlds and their migration through caves and tunnels, eventually emerging onto the surface through a place called Sipapu. Each previous world was destroyed when humanity became corrupt and forgot the sacred teachings, forcing the people to move upward to a new level of existence. The Pueblo peoples have similar stories of climbing up through layers of reality to reach this world, guided by spiritual beings and animal helpers. These emergent stories are not just ancient history, but living traditions, with the Sipapu still represented in kivas, the ceremonial chambers where important rituals take place. The Cherokee have legends of the Nunahai, a race of spirit people who live inside mountains and beneath the ground, The Nunnehi are generally friendly to humans, sometimes helping those who are lost or in danger. They live in great houses inside the mountains, where they hold dances and celebrations. Occasionally, humans have been invited to visit these underground halls, experiencing wonders and hospitality before being returned safely to the surface. Even in Christianity, there are references to places beneath the earth, though often with different connotations. The concept of Sheol in Hebrew tradition, a shadowy underworld where all the dead go regardless of virtue, later evolved into more complex ideas of hell, purgatory, and various afterlife realms. But even here, the Earth's depths hold significance as places of transformation, testing, and eventual resurrection. What's striking is how widespread these stories are. Cultures separated by vast distances and millennia seem to share a common image. Beneath the known world lies another world, hidden, often sacred, sometimes dangerous, always mysterious. Why this recurring theme? Perhaps it's practical. Caves offered shelter to early humans. They were liminal spaces, thresholds between the surface world and the unknown depths. Many were sacred sites, decorated with ancient art, used for rituals and initiations. Descending into a cave was literally a descent into mystery, into darkness, into a place where normal rules didn't apply. Or perhaps it's psychological. The underground as a metaphor for the unconscious mind, the hidden depths of the psyche where forgotten memories and unknown potentials reside. Carl Jung wrote extensively about descent symbolism in myths and dreams, seeing it as representing the journey into the unconscious, the confrontation with the shadow self, and the discovery of deeper wisdom. To descend into Agartha might be to descend into the self, to discover what lies beneath the surface of everyday consciousness. The crystal cities could represent the clarity that emerges when the mind is purified. The wise beings could be aspects of our own higher wisdom, normally hidden but accessible through deep introspection and meditation. But for those who believe in Agartha as a literal place, these philosophical musings miss the point. To them, Agartha is real, physical, and waiting to be discovered. In the early 20th century, several explorers and adventurers claimed to have found evidence of underground civilizations, or even to have entered them. One of the most famous stories involves Admiral Richard E. Byrd, a renowned polar explorer who led expeditions to both the Arctic and Antarctic. According to certain accounts, during his 1947 expedition to the North Pole, Byrd flew his plane into a strange opening in the ice and discovered a green, warm land beneath the frozen surface, complete with mammoths and advanced beings who communicated with him telepathically. These beings allegedly told Byrd they were from Agartha, that they had been monitoring humanity's development with concern, particularly our use of atomic weapons. They warned that we were heading towards self-destruction and offered guidance if we would listen. They showed him their cities, their technology, their peaceful way of life, trying to demonstrate that another path was possible for humanity. When Byrd returned to the surface, the story goes, he was debriefed by military authorities and ordered to keep silent about what he'd seen. His diary entries describing this incredible journey were supposedly suppressed, classified as top secret. Only years later, through mysterious channels, did portions of his account emerge, revealing the truth the government didn't want people to know. The problem is, there's no credible evidence any of this happened. Byrd's official expedition logs, which are publicly available, make no mention of any underground realm. The supposed diary entries that surfaced later contain language and details that don't match Byrd's actual writing style and include anachronisms that suggest they were written much later. Bird himself never publicly claimed to have discovered Agartha, and his family has denied the authenticity of the secret diary. Yet the story persists, continually retold and embellished, because it touches something people want to believe: that there are still unexplored frontiers, still hidden wonders, still mysteries beyond the reach of satellites and surveillance. In an age where every corner of the earth has been mapped and photographed, the idea that something vast and important could still be hidden is deeply appealing. Another popular story involves Nazi Germany's alleged search for Agartha. Some accounts claim that Hitler and the Nazi leadership were obsessed with occult knowledge and sent expeditions to Tibet and other remote locations, searching for entrances to the underground kingdom, hoping to gain access to its advanced technology and mystical wisdom. Some versions even suggest that high-ranking Nazis escaped to Agartha at the end of World War II, where they remain to this day. There is some truth here, though heavily distorted. The Nazis did send an expedition to Tibet in 1938-39, led by zoologist Ernst Schaefer, under the auspices of Heinrich Himmler's Ahnenerbe organization. But its purposes were primarily scientific and propagandistic, seeking to find evidence supporting Nazi racial theories and to establish diplomatic contacts, not looking for underground kingdoms. It's true that some Nazi leaders, particularly Himmler, had interests in occultism and esoteric traditions. The Thule Society, which had connections to early Nazi Party members, was named after a legendary northern land, though Thule is different from Agartha. But there's no credible evidence of organized, official searches for Agartha or any underground realm. Still, the image is compelling. Storm troopers trekking through Himalayan passes, looking for secret cave entrances, hoping to find superweapons hidden in ancient vaults. It combines real history with fantasy in a way that makes for good stories, even if the reality is far more mundane. It also serves as a cautionary tale about what happens when spiritual seeking becomes corrupted by hunger for power. So where does this leave us? Is Agartha real? In the literal sense, almost certainly not. Modern geology has mapped the Earth's interior with seismic waves. We know the structure: a thin crust, averaging about 30 kilometers thick under continents and 5 kilometers under oceans, a thick mantle of semi-molten rock extending down about 2,900 kilometers, a liquid outer core of iron and nickel about 2,300 kilometers thick, and a solid inner core roughly 1,200 kilometers in radius. There's no space for vast caverns containing cities and civilizations. The pressure and temperature at those depths would crush and incinerate anything we'd recognize as life. Caves do exist, of course. Some are enormous. The Mammoth Cave system in Kentucky stretches for over 400 miles of explored passages, with more being discovered regularly. Son Jong Cave in Vietnam is so large it has its own weather system, with clouds forming inside the cavern. In Mexico, the Cave of Crystals contains enormous selenite crystals, some over 30 feet long, growing in a chamber deep beneath the surface. But these are surface-level phenomena, formed by water-dissolving limestone or other processes over millions of years, not gateways to underground worlds. The deepest cave known, Veryovkina Cave in Georgia, reaches only about 2,200 meters down, barely scratching the Earth's crust. Yet the idea of Agartha survives, not as geology, but as myth, as symbol, as a representation of something humans need to believe exists. Perhaps Agartha represents the human longing for sanctuary, for a place untouched by war, pollution, and suffering. In a world that often seems chaotic and hostile, the idea of a hidden realm of peace and wisdom is deeply comforting. It suggests that somewhere, life is being lived the right way, that harmony is possible, that we're not entirely abandoned to our own struggling. Perhaps it represents the unexplored territories of human consciousness itself. If Agartha doesn't exist beneath the earth, perhaps it exists within us, a metaphor for the deep mind, the place where intuition and creativity arise, where ancient wisdom is preserved beyond the reach of everyday thinking. The journey to Agartha becomes the journey of meditation, of going inward and downward, past the surface chatter of thoughts into deeper silence. Or perhaps it represents hope, the belief that somewhere, somehow, beings wiser and more advanced than us are watching, ready to help if we're willing to listen. In stories of Agartha, the surface world is often depicted as fallen, corrupted, lost, while the underground kingdom preserves the true, pure knowledge. It's a reversal of the usual associations, where depths are dark and evil, and height and light are good. Here, depth is wisdom, and the surface is illusion. Let's descend deeper into the legend and explore what Agartha is said to look like, how it's supposed to function, and what its inhabitants are like. According to various accounts, Agartha is illuminated not by a sun, but by a central luminous core, sometimes described as a miniature sun floating at the center of a hollow earth, sometimes as vast deposits of naturally glowing crystals embedded in the cavern ceiling, sometimes as advanced technology beyond our understanding that converts the Earth's internal heat and magnetic energy into soft, diffused light. This light is described as unlike surface sunlight. It doesn't create harsh shadows or glare. Instead, it's omnipresent and gentle, coming from all directions at once, like the light just before dawn or just after sunset. That magical hour when everything seems to glow from within. Colors appear more vivid yet softer, less demanding on the eye. The overall effect is restful, calming, conducive to contemplation and inner peace. The cities of Agartha are said to be built from crystal or carved from living rock, with architecture that blends seamlessly with the natural formations of the caverns. Imagine towers of translucent stone spiraling upward toward the glowing ceiling, their surfaces catching and refracting light in cascades of color. Bridges of some crystalline substance span underground chasms, so clear they seem made of solidified air, connecting districts built into the walls of vast caverns. The buildings are described as organic in form, with flowing curves and natural proportions rather than rigid right angles. Doorways are shaped like the openings of seashells, windows like flower petals. Floors are polished stone that seems to pulse with inner light. Everything is designed not just for function, but for beauty, for harmony, for the elevation of consciousness. Water plays a central role in Agarthan architecture. Underground rivers flow through the cities, their waters carrying minerals that make them glow softly, blue or green or gold depending on their source. Fountains create geometric patterns in mid-air, held in place by some force that might be magnetism or might be something else entirely. The sound of flowing water is constant, a gentle background music that soothes and calms. Gardens exist underground, it's said, with plants that have adapted to grow in the soft light, or that are cultivated using the advanced knowledge of the Agarthans. Bioluminescent vegetation glows in shades of blue and purple, creating living light displays. Trees with crystal-like leaves chime softly when the air moves through them. Flowers release perfumes that have subtle psychoactive effects, enhancing meditation or promoting healing. The inhabitants, often called Agarthans or Agarthi, are described variously as tall and ethereal, with large eyes adapted to the dim light, or as perfectly proportioned and beautiful, representing the ideal form humanity could achieve through spiritual evolution. Some accounts describe them as ancient humans who retreated underground during cataclysms on the surface, preserving advanced knowledge from lost civilizations like Atlantis or Lemuria. They are said to possess technology far beyond ours, but not technology in the sense of computers and machines. Rather, it's a technology of consciousness, of harnessing mental and spiritual energies directly. They can communicate telepathically, speaking mind to mind without words, sharing thoughts, emotions, and images directly. This makes lying impossible and misunderstanding rare, creating a culture of radical honesty and transparency. They can move objects with thought, levitating heavy stones during construction or manipulating tools from a distance. They can heal injuries through focused intention, directing life force energy to damaged tissues, accelerating natural healing processes to remarkable speeds. They can even, some say, dematerialize and rematerialize their bodies, traveling instantly through vast networks of tunnels, or projecting their consciousness to distant locations while their bodies remain in meditative repose. Their society is described as hierarchical but benevolent, with governance by spiritual merit rather than force. At the top is usually a supreme leader, sometimes called the King of the World, or the Sovereign Pontiff of Agartha, a being of such advanced enlightenment that his consciousness extends beyond his physical form, touching all life on earth. He is said to be immortal, or nearly so, having lived for thousands of years, accumulating wisdom across epochs. Beneath this supreme ruler are councils of masters, adepts who have achieved various levels of spiritual attainment and who specialize in different aspects of wisdom. Some focus on healing arts, understanding the subtle energies of the body and how to restore balance. Others study what we might call science, but at levels that blend physics with metaphysics, seeing matter and energy as expressions of consciousness. Still others focus on art, music, or philosophy, understanding these not as mere entertainment or intellectual exercise, but as ways of encoding and transmitting spiritual truths. Together, they guide not just their own civilization, but subtly the development of surface humanity. It's said they send out telepathic influences, inspiring dreams, insights, and innovations in surface dwellers who are receptive. Great inventors, artists, and spiritual teachers throughout history are sometimes described as having received downloads of information from Agarthan sources, though they might not have recognized it as such. Daily life in Agartha is said to be peaceful and harmonious. There is no crime, because telepathy makes hidden motives impossible, and spiritual development has eliminated the drives toward greed, violence, and domination. There is no poverty, because resources are abundant, provided either by advanced understanding of natural processes, ability to transmute elements, or technologies we can't imagine. Energy is drawn directly from the Earth's core, clean and inexhaustible. People don't work in the way we understand it. There's no wage labor, no drudgery, no jobs performed solely for survival. Instead, people pursue their passions and interests, contributing to the community through their natural talents and what brings them joy. Someone who loves growing things tends the underground gardens. Someone who loves beauty creates art or music. Someone who loves understanding maintains the libraries and teaches the young. Work and play are the same thing, all activity infused with meaning and purpose. Education is not formal, but experiential. Children learn through direct transmission of knowledge from elder minds to younger ones, a kind of mental downloading of information and wisdom. A child interested in healing might spend time with a healing master, receiving not just verbal instruction, but direct, energetic transmissions that awaken latent abilities and understanding. But education is not just information transfer. It's primarily about consciousness development, about learning to quiet the mind, expand awareness, connect with higher states of being. Children are taught meditation from an early age, not as a chore, but as a natural and enjoyable part of life, like breathing or eating. Art and music are highly valued, not as entertainment, but as expressions of cosmic principles and spiritual truths. Music in Agartha is said to be based on sacred geometry and harmonic ratios that resonate with the fundamental frequencies of reality itself. Listening to Agarthan music doesn't just please the ear. It realigns the energy body, heals emotional wounds, elevates consciousness to higher states. Visual art serves similar purposes. The patterns and colors used in Agarthan art are not random, but precisely calculated to have specific effects on the viewer's consciousness. A painting might facilitate deep meditation. A sculpture might encode complex philosophical teachings that reveal themselves gradually to those who contemplate it. Architecture itself is a form of sacred geometry, with buildings designed to channel energy in specific ways, creating spaces that naturally induce peace, clarity, or inspiration. Time moves differently in Agartha, some say. Not slower or faster necessarily, but less urgently. Without the pressure of survival, without the endless rush that characterizes surface life, without even the clear markers of day and night that govern our rhythms, inhabitants live in a state of perpetual presence, fully engaged with each moment, each conversation, each experience. This doesn't mean they're passive or unchanging. Things still happen. Projects are undertaken and completed. Life unfolds. But there's no sense of time running out, no anxiety about deadlines or aging or death. This allows for a quality of attention and patience we can barely imagine. An Agarthan might spend decades contemplating a single question, centuries mastering a single art form, approaching everything with the calm certainty that there's always enough time. And they are long-lived, perhaps immortal. Their bodies are maintained by perfect nutrition, clean air free of pollutants, lack of stress, and spiritual practices that keep them vital and healthy for centuries or millennia. Some versions of the legend claim that death exists in Agartha only as a conscious choice, something undertaken when a soul feels complete with a particular lifetime and ready to move on to other experiences. Is any of this true? Almost certainly not in a literal sense, but as a vision of what human society could become, it's beautiful. It represents all our hopes for peace, harmony, wisdom, and freedom from suffering. Agartha is less a place than an aspiration, a dream of what we might achieve if we could transcend our current limitations. Some modern believers in Agartha have tried to locate its entrances. Popular theories suggest openings at the North and South Poles, based on early 20th century hollow earth theories and photographs that seem to show depressions at the poles, though these were later explained as artifacts of satellite imaging and polar ice formations. Other supposed entrances are in the Gobi Desert, beneath the shifting sands where ancient civilizations once flourished, in the Himalayan mountains, particularly in Tibet, where cave systems are extensive and sacred sites abound, beneath the Sphinx in Egypt, where some believe ancient chambers still wait to be discovered, containing records from before the flood, in the Amazon rainforest, where indigenous peoples speak of cities swallowed by jungle and passages leading deep into the earth, even beneath the ocean floor, in places where sonar has detected anomalous formations that might be entrances to vast submarine cave systems. there are stories of people who claim to have accidentally stumbled into tunnels leading toward Agartha, only to be turned back by mysterious guardians, beings who appeared human but radiated a presence that made it clear they were something more. These guardians supposedly appear at the boundaries of the hidden realm, politely but firmly, directing surface dwellers away, unless they've been specifically invited or have reached a level of spiritual development that makes them ready for contact. Others speak of psychic communication with Agarthan beings, receiving messages through meditation or dreams. These messages typically include guidance for personal spiritual development, warnings about environmental destruction or nuclear weapons, and reassurances that humanity is not alone, that we're being watched over and helped in ways we don't always perceive. In the 1940s and 50s, a contactee movement emerged, with various individuals claiming to receive communications from beings in Agartha, often mixed with messages from extraterrestrials. George Adamski, for example, claimed contact with beings from Venus, but also spoke of underground civilizations. Guy Ballard, founder of the I Am movement, claimed to have met an ascended master named Saint Germain on Mount Shasta, who revealed teachings about the Great White Brotherhood operating from hidden sanctuaries, including Agartha. These messages typically warned of the dangers of nuclear weapons, environmental destruction, and spiritual degradation, urging humanity to change course before it was too late. They spoke of a coming age of enlightenment when the barriers between surface and underground humanity would dissolve and we would live together in harmony. Skeptics point out that these messages, while well-intentioned, tell us more about the concerns of the people receiving them than about any actual underground civilization. They reflect cold war anxieties, environmental awareness, and spiritual seeking, all projected onto a mythical realm that conveniently can't be verified or disproven. Yet for those who believe, the lack of physical evidence doesn't matter. Agartha exists on a different plane, accessible not through digging or exploration, but through spiritual development and inner transformation. To find Agartha, one must first find it within oneself. This brings us to the most interesting interpretation of the legend, Agartha as a state of consciousness. In this view, the journey to Agartha is not a physical descent, but a psychological and spiritual one. It's the journey inward, into the depths of one's own being, past the surface layers of ego and personality, down into the unconscious, and finally into what some call the self, or the true nature, or Buddha nature, the eternal awareness that is our deepest identity. The tunnels leading to Agartha represent the pathways of meditation, contemplation, and inner work. They are dark at first, because we're leaving behind the familiar light of everyday consciousness, descending into unknown territory. We must proceed carefully, feeling our way, trusting that there's something worth finding in the depths. The guardians who turn back the unprepared represent the challenges and resistances that arise when we try to go deeper into ourselves. Fear, doubt, distraction, old traumas surfacing, ego mechanisms fighting to maintain control. These aren't external obstacles, but internal ones, and they can only be passed through spiritual development, through genuine transformation of consciousness. The luminous city at the center represents the enlightened state, the place of peace and clarity that exists at the core of every human being, usually hidden beneath layers of conditioning and reactivity, but always there, waiting to be discovered. It's not something we need to create or earn, but something we need to uncover, to remember. The wise inhabitants are aspects of our own higher wisdom, the intuitive knowing that arises when we quiet the mind enough to hear it. The king of the world is the organizing principle of consciousness itself, the awareness that witnesses all experiences but is not bound by any of them. The presence that was there before thoughts arose and will remain when they subside. In this reading, the legend of Agartha is not a lie or delusion, but a teaching story, a map of inner territory disguised as geography. Like all good myths, it works on multiple levels simultaneously, offering different gifts to different seekers depending on their readiness and understanding. Let's pause here and just rest for a moment in the image. A vast, glowing cavern deep beneath the earth, filled with crystal cities and flowing water that catches the light. Gentle beings moving through spaces designed for harmony and beauty. No rush, no fear, no violence, just peace. Whether Agartha exists in any physical sense or not, we can visit it in imagination, can let our minds rest in that peaceful underground realm as we drift towards sleep. We can imagine descending through layers of rock, leaving behind the noise and chaos of the surface world, going deeper and deeper until we emerge into soft, glowing light. Here, in this inner Agartha, we are safe, we are held, we are home. The air is clean and cool, carrying the faint scent of minerals and underground water. The light is gentle, coming from everywhere and nowhere. A soft blue-gold radiance that doesn't create shadows, but illuminates everything evenly. Somewhere, water is flowing over smooth stones, a quiet, continuous music that has been playing since the world was young. The walls glow softly with their own light, crystalline structures embedded in ancient rock, pulsing gently like a slow heartbeat. The space is vast, but not overwhelming, intimate despite its size, like being held in the palm of a vast, benevolent presence. There are no demands here, no expectations, no judgments. No need to be anything other than what you are. The pressure of the world above, with all its requirements and urgencies, cannot reach this deep. Here, you can simply be, can rest in pure existence, without having to perform or achieve or prove anything. In some versions of the story, the masters of Agartha are waiting for humanity to be ready for contact. They watch us, patient and compassionate, as we struggle through our adolescence as a species, making mistakes, learning slowly, gradually evolving toward wisdom. They don't intervene directly because growth requires struggle, because lessons learned through experience are deeper than those given as instruction. But they send subtle influences, gentle nudges toward wisdom and awakening. They inspire dreams in artists and inventors. They transmit insights to spiritual teachers. They work behind the scenes, planting seeds that will sprout when conditions are right, and when we're ready, when enough of us have done the inner work, have descended into our own depths and found the peace that waits there. The barriers will dissolve. Agartha will no longer be hidden. It will reveal itself, not because it moved, but because we finally learned to see, because we raised our consciousness to a level where we can perceive what was always there. This is the promise at the heart of the legend, that transformation is possible, both individual and collective, that beneath the surface of things lies something better, wiser, more beautiful, that we're not alone in our journey toward enlightenment, that help is available if we're willing to receive it, that the universe is fundamentally benevolent and supportive of our evolution. Whether we interpret this literally or symbolically doesn't really matter. What matters is the direction it points us toward, inward, downward, into the depths where truth resides. So as you lie here, feeling your body grow heavy and relaxed, imagine yourself descending, not into darkness, but into soft, glowing light. not into danger, but into sanctuary, not into the unknown, but into the deepest knowing, the place where you've always belonged. With each breath, you go a little deeper. The surface world grows distant, its noise fading to a whisper, then to silence. The weight of worry and responsibility falls away, layer by layer, like unnecessary clothes being shed. Your body becomes lighter, even as it sinks deeper into rest. Your mind grows quieter, thoughts slowing and spacing out, leaving gaps of pure awareness between them. You are descending through stone, through time, through the accumulated debris of experience, down to the bedrock of being. And there, at the very bottom, you find not a void but a fullness, not an ending but a beginning, not emptiness, but the source from which everything arises. This is your Agartha. This is the hidden kingdom that lives within you, the place of peace and wisdom that you carry everywhere, even when you forget it's there. It doesn't depend on external conditions. It's not affected by what happens on the surface. It simply is, eternal and unchanging, a sanctuary you can return to anytime you remember the way. And in this place, you can rest. You can let go. You can simply be without having to do or prove or achieve anything. Here, you are already complete, already whole, already home. The crystal cities glow around you, beautiful and serene, their architecture a frozen music, their light a visible peace. The soft luminescence bathes everything in gentle radiance, and you realize you're glowing too, that you've always been made of light, you'd just forgotten. Somewhere, ancient voices are singing, a harmony that's older than mountains, continuous and comforting. It's the sound of the earth itself, the deep vibration of existence, and it's singing you, holding you, rocking you gently in arms of stone and light. You are held by the earth itself, cradled in its deep places, safe and protected. Nothing can harm you here. Nothing demands your attention or requires your effort. You can simply drift, floating in the quiet light, letting it wash away everything that no longer serves you, every tension, every worry, every old story you've been carrying. And if you wake in the morning with only a dim memory of this place, that's okay. It will still be here, waiting for you whenever you need it. Your inner Agartha doesn't go anywhere. It's always beneath the surface, always accessible through the simple act of turning inward, of descending into silence, of allowing yourself to rest in the depths. The surface world will return tomorrow, with all its noise and demands. But now you know the way down, the path to peace, the descent into light. And whenever the world becomes too much, whenever you need sanctuary, you can make this journey again, closing your eyes and sinking down, down, down into the glowing stillness at the center of everything. So sleep now, dear traveler. Sleep in the depths. Sleep in the light. Sleep in the hidden kingdom that exists nowhere and everywhere, beneath the mountains and beneath your heart, waiting patiently for your return. If you're still awake, you're welcome to continue your journey into other mysteries. But if sleep is calling, answer it now. Let yourself sink deeper into comfort, into peace, into the gentle embrace of earth and silence and light that knows no ending. And remember to subscribe, like this video, and share your city in the comments so we can continue exploring these quiet mysteries together, one sleepy soul at a time. Good night, and sweet dreams from the luminous depths of Agartha, the kingdom beneath the world, the sanctuary within the heart, the peace that waits in the deepest silence.